Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, today I have a very interesting chart for you to look at with me. And even if you don't know astrology, this is going to be very educational. And even if you don't like sports, this is very educational. And I got to tell you, I have 3 sons. I have been exposed to sports my whole life. But between you and me, it's not my favorite thing. But I thought this chart needed to be looked at because this guy has been in the news a lot lately. So who am I putting up here to look at? Aaron Rodgers, who, if you don't know who he is a football player for American football, that is. And he has been the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers for many, many, many years. And then he switched over to the New York Jets. And get this, his very first game, in the first few minutes, he got a serious injury that's taken him out of the whole season. Wow. I thought, I gotta look at this chart and see what in the heck is going on for him. Surely it's got to be in the stars that this was so ill-fated for him. But probably, you know, something about changing teams had something to do with it. His astrocartography probably wasn't too good for New York. But one way or another, it's going to be in his chart. So putting up Aaron Rodgers, football star, quarterback for many years. He's almost 40 years old. He'll be 40 this year. He is, you know, he's not a spring chicken anymore with this. So he's one of the old players that people have gotten accustomed to and love him. So looking at Aaron Rodgers, you got to really focus on where his ascendant is. The ascendant is the rising sign at their time of birth. And it really does set up the whole chart. So looking at his ascendant, it's Aries, which makes a lot of sense to me. Aries is ruled by Mars and he's an athlete. Mars rules athletes. So looking at where his Mars goes, ruler of his chart, actually goes to the 6th house, which is the house that deals with what? Competition. And it is a house of struggles, but it is what we call upachaya, which means ambitious, driven. Over time, you improve and get better, even though you've got your obstacles. So it makes sense that an athlete of his caliber would have his ruling planet in the 6th house of competition, okay? And his Mars sits in Virgo, which is meticulous about getting things right. I mean, he's a quarterback. He's not like one of the linebackers. Quarterbacks have to have a certain finesse and know what they're doing and, you know, with the ball, throwing it and all of that. You know, it's so important. And catching those are the stars that have the finesse. So looking at his chart, well, you know, I think I'll just jump to where we need to go with this, because in astrology, I wanted to see, and I know it's so frustrating that people don't want to learn astrology for the most part. They think it's too hard, so they just tune out and they go speak English. No, I want the world to step up, because if you can understand a little astrology, this can help you so much in your own life. And that it really and truly, it can, especially for Aaron Rodgers. If he knew a little astrology, could have helped him enormously. But you know what's fascinating, not to change the subject or anything, but did you know that Theodore Roosevelt used to have his chart in the Oval Office by the checkers? And he said, when people said, "What is that?" He says, "I keep my watchful eye on my Mars and Moon in the 1st and 7th house." Yes, he had Mars and Moon opposing each other in the 1st and the 7th house. This is a president. So I think we can take this to the next level to better understand astrology. So what I'm going to be talking about right now is where the planets are moving in the sky. They're called transiting planets. So when we look over here at the birth chart, all the planets there in the birth chart are where they were on the day and time of his birth. And I mean, we even take into astrologers the time of birth. That sets up where the ascendant is. And so therefore, if you know what your ascendant is and where all the planets were on that day, that places the planets in your chart. That sets up your whole birth chart. But what we're going to do today is we're going to look at where the planets have transited to on the day of his fatal fall. And that day was September 12th, 2023. First game of the season. Unbelievable. So, when we look at where the planets are in the sky, what I do is I draw them in a chart, plug them in, and if they are close to the planets where they were when he was born, we call those natal planets. Then they create an event or something happens. And so I pulled up the planets to see, just looking at that, the transits. We have all sorts of other predictive rules and techniques, by the way. We have the dashas, we have the divisional charts, but I'm not getting too, I want to be where you can understand this as a layman, just looking at a chart. So there's the planets in the birth chart. So I'm looking at where they were in the sky at the time of that he was injured. And the first planet that I look to is Mars. Why? Because Mars rules accidents. Accidents. And Mars is anger, competition. It rules sports. Remember what I said? So where is Mars on the day he got injured? You're not going to believe this, but it was 15 degrees of Virgo. Look at where his natal Mars is. 14 degrees, 50 minutes, almost exactly 15 degrees. So Mars is on his natal Mars. Transiting Mars in the sky, sits exactly. And you know, Mars takes 2 years to go through the whole zodiac, so this doesn't happen every day. Some of the faster moving planets, yeah, they happen once a month or, you know, quite often. This is once every 2 years. But it's exact to the minute. I mean, what if he, you know, next week, Mars would not be on this degree anymore. So it's like it's right there within less than a degree conjunct his natal Mars. So that tells you something's up. But you know, I might kind of think, well, maybe he's more aggressive, he's more powerful with Mars on Mars. So I look to another planet that deals with accidents. What is that planet? Uranus. Uranus rules unexpected, sudden events. That's why it's kind of looked at as a planet of earthquakes, but it's a great awakener. But it does deal with sudden, unexpected events, which is accidents, truly. So on this day, Uranus sat at 28 degrees of Aries, okay? And plugging it into this chart, what is it looking at or aspecting? That's a little confusing because what I talked about is Mars being on Mars. That's a conjunction. So you may not know the aspects in astrology, and actually that's the thing that throws everybody for a loop, but it's really not that complicated. Here's what I want you to know. If you put Uranus in, is there anything in the chart that's almost 28 degrees? The moon. The most personal point in a chart, aside from your ascendant, is the moon. Most important part of the chart, the moon. And the moon sits at 27 degrees, 25 minutes, while Uranus sits at, this is in Libra, and Uranus sits right across in what we call an opposition. Oppositions are as powerful as conjunctions. So Uranus is opposing the moon almost exactly on that day, while Mars sits on Mars. And here's the thing in astrology, when you have more than one transit and a long range transit, such as Uranus. Uranus is a very long range transit. And what do I mean by that? It takes 84 years for Uranus to go through all 12 signs of the zodiac. So this is a once in a lifetime aspect. Will never happen again and never happened before. Okay? 84 years. And here it is. Boom. It has opposed his natal moon. And the moon is so personal. And Mars. Well, Mars is on Mars. It sits in the 6th house. Now, if you look at the moon that's being triggered, Mars is actually, the transit of Mars on natal Mars is in the 12th house from the moon. And I know I don't expect you guys, beginners, to know what the 12th house means, but it means endings. So this pretty much ended his, it may not have ended his career, but maybe it has. But it definitely ended him being in the game for the rest of the season. So he has to get back, relax, heal. 12th house actually deals with hospitals too. So not that he's in a hospital, but he's going in and out, seeing doctors, I am sure. Yes, so that is incredibly important, and I see some other things, but those are the two most important things. I just wanted to give you a sense and a feel on how these transits work and how you can predict things and hopefully avert things if you know this. So with this, I hope you gained some great insights into astrology, and I hope it's inspired you to want to learn astrology, because I have an all online self-paced course, and it's the University of Vedic Astrology. Go to my website. You can join anytime and truly learn how to do this for yourself. It's called the University of Vedic Astrology.com. Become one of my students and we'll learn this together. Now, I'm very excited about my new Patreon page. You're gonna have to check this out, because with this is a community of like-minded people coming together. I am offering so many discounts and exclusive information that only people in Patreon are going to get, uncensored, and it brings a community together. Go to my Patreon page. And one last thing, if you haven't signed up for my free newsletter, you're missing out, because in that I deliver my predictions every week to your email address. Go to galacticcenter.org, join my Patreon page, and get my, if you join the Patreon page, you're gonna get a plethora of information, much, much, much more than you will with my free newsletter. So check it all out. I am so excited about all the new things that are happening with Galactic Center and my Patreon page. Go to galacticcenter.org. Thank you.